Alright, it's official. Boxing has been saved. Tommy Fury became the guy to derail the Jake Paul hype train. Which, if you watched my last video, you'll notice that this fight went exactly how I thought it would. But this wasn't just a win for Tommy, this was a win for boxing as a whole. Up until this point, Jake's kind of just represented everything wrong with boxing right now. Routinely disrespecting the greats of boxing's past, not even knowing who some of them are, guys like Tony Bellew and Carl Froch, which makes me think that Jake's probably not much of a student of the game, cherry picking past their prime UFC champions so that he can claim to have beaten champions, walking around with these so-called championship belts as if boxing doesn't already have a huge issue with there being way too many belts. And then, of course, repeatedly trying to cross the line with the trash talk, bringing in people's family, their wives, their children. And then, of course, how can I forget brash in victory and excuses in defeat. This event was billed as the truth, and the truth is exactly what we got. The truth is no amount of money can make up for a lifetime of hard work. And at the end of the day, Jake's just not a very skilled boxer. And in all honesty, Tommy's no world beater himself. Tommy definitely has a lot of room to grow. And if he wants to continue to succeed and eventually challenge for championships, we're gonna have to see a lot more out of him. But that being said, I was very impressed with Tommy being able to still perform at a decently high level with all that pressure on him. I think when you take that into account, Tommy's probably a lot better than what we saw tonight. I think without all that added pressure, if he can just kind of go in there and be himself, I think he would've, could've, and should've gotten Jake out of there. And for Jake, yeah, he might have kind of tried to stack the deck in his favor just a little bit by adding on to the pressure, by trying to move Tommy straight from fighting 4-rounders to 8. But at the end of the day, he definitely took on a challenge by taking this fight. And if there's one thing boxing needs, it's that. Fighters actually fighting people who are gonna pose a real legitimate challenge. And honestly, I thought that after his first loss, he was probably just gonna retire and go on and do whatever else will make him money. But the fact that he's not retiring, the fact that he's choosing to continue on, I have all the respect in the world for that. I think that in a lot of people's opinions, his pro career is just starting from here. He finally got in there with a pro boxer, his size, roughly his age. And while he did have his moments in there where he looked pretty good, at the end of the day, he definitely lost. And I've seen a couple people try to kind of argue that it was a super close fight and maybe Jake edged it off of points, but that just didn't happen. He got completely outclassed in almost every round and he had his output doubled up. If he really wants to continue on and eventually try to compete for championships, he has a lot of room to grow. And at the end of the day, we kind of found out exactly who he is as a fighter in this one. He doesn't have good fundamentals. He over relies on huge overhand rights, and he does have a little bit of a good check hook. But still, in 4 or 5 years of training, to be able to perform at this level in front of this many people, headlining your own pay-per-view card, it is still very impressive. So what's next? The announcers are talking about the rematch. Tommy talked about the rematch. Jake talked about the rematch. I don't know how much sense the rematch really makes. I mean, it's gonna make both of them a lot of money, but if I'm Jake and I just wanna make money, there's a bunch of other fights out there that will make him just as much, if not more money, and be less of a challenge. So if he really wants to go through with this rematch, that's very respectable. But my question is, what happens if he loses that? If he continues boxing after that, there's really nothing anybody can say about him anymore. He's 100% a true boxer, even in defeat. And as for Tommy, if you really want to go on and be a title challenger, I still don't think beating Jake gets you all that much closer. I think he's got a lot of money now, money that he can use to reinvest in himself, have even better camps with more higher quality sparring partners, etc., etc. But I think that in the rematch with way less pressure on him, I do think he'd be able to get him out of there. I think the biggest challenge for Tommy was the pressure and the unknown about Jake's power. And now that he knows what he's up against, now that he knows how to deal with these kinds of moments, I wouldn't be surprised if he got him out of there in a rematch. But let me know in the comments, what did you guys think about this fight? Do you think they got the decision right? And who do you think these guys should fight next? Thanks for watching.